That's something I love to see. So let's see, what have we got here? The Cheryl, Mary Ellen, Iris, Stella, and oh, that's a big crowd already. we get 5 people. It's a pretty good crowd, right? Okie dokie. All right, so we'll just give everybody a few minutes to begin to come in. As always, there comes Maurice. Wonderful. As always, Judy, hello. New Orleans checking in. So, as I was about to say, as we were waiting for people to come in, just greeting everybody and glad you're here with us. We're going to discuss visual distance and values of values today. So, as always, those who are members get to chat, and those who are not members get to watch the members chat. To become a member, click join. It's a great thing. You join, you get to chat with us on these monthly chats, plus you get a free lesson every month. You get a coupon for a free lesson from the lessons website, hour-long lesson. So that's a popular thing. So I said so about 10 times already. I guess I haven't got warmed up good. Okay, now one thing I want to do with you this today before we get started, and also give time for people to gather together. Yeah, it's going to be Froggy Day again today. Is I want us to get started with a little game like we've done in the past 3 or 4 chats, where we start out with just a little warm-up game to just kind of get you accustomed to the language of things. And so if I think maybe, Roger, we could go ahead and get started with it. We got enough folks gathered in.
Is that already?
Ohio's checking in. All right, cool. Okay, all right, so here's the way the game goes. Let me scoot over and get out of your way. What I'd like for you to do is to look at the slide in the upper, this corner right here. This corner right here. Which of those colors is the darkest in value? A or B? So I'm gonna give you a chance. All of you who are in the chat, let's just drink some coffee and see if we get rid of that frog. See if I can drown it. Okay, A. Keep on. Those of you in the chat, which is darker, A or B, of the colors that we see there? Okay, A's still coming. A's getting lots of votes. And Cheryl says they're equal. Okay. All right. Anybody else want to vote? A or B? Which is darker? Same, equal. Okay. Keep them coming. All right. Now I'll give you one more little chance. Squint at it and see if you still want to stay with your answer. A. All right. Now we'll show you the black and white version. There it is. A is darker than B. Okay, let's try another one. Okay, here we go again. Which of these is darker, A or B? All right, start voting. A or B? Darker in value. Different in color and darker in value. Okay, Liliana says A. Hey, Liliana. I see somebody I didn't catch to say hey to, Dolores. Judy, hello. And hello, everybody, as they're coming in. I'll probably lose track. Okay, I'm getting more votes, lots of more votes on A. All right. Roger. There you go. You're right. That one was sort of obvious, wasn't it? Oh, Iris, take another look. Okay, and then now we've got another one. So let's try this one. Okay, which is darker, A or B? Waiting for your answers. Waiting for your. Oh, I see. I know what happens. Y'all give the answer, but I don't see it until about 10 seconds later. Okay, B. B, lots of votes getting B. Good. All right. Okay, Roger, let's see which one is darker. You're right on that one. All right, so y'all think this is really easy, isn't it? So you're reading your colors and values pretty well. Some of these might seem obvious to you, and others might be a little bit confusing, but let's try one more. How about this one? Which is darker, A or B? Okay, A or B? A. Okay, A's got a couple of votes. Keep voting, A or B? Darker A, darker A. Yes, darker. Which is darker, A or B? Same. B equal. Okay, now it's equal, Cheryl says. All right, let's wait just a second or two more. Get some other folks a chance to.
Sorry about that.
What was that? Oh, you did it already.
I thought you said let's go.
That's all right. Okay, Roger, go ahead. Go ahead, show it. Okay, Cheryl, there you go. A is a little bit darker, just a little bit darker. Before, let me explain to you that I had the computer to measure the luminance of these, and so the black and white version is pretty accurate as to which one is really darker or lighter. But this one is very close in value, and so that's why it kind of threw a couple of you there. All right, did I have one more?
Nope.
Is this the end of it?
Yeah. No, I'm sorry.
I have got one more. I know I do. All right, there we go. How about these? Which is darker, A or B? Last one was SP. Which is darker? There comes Terry, Joan. Good. I'm glad to see the troops gathering in. Darker, A or B? Which is darker in value, A or B? Everybody's saying B, same, B, same, A. Come on. Same with the question mark. B. Okay, let's show them the answer, Roger. There it is. It is pretty close to the same this time. In fact, when I threw it in black and white, it came out B was a little bit lighter, but I think we can call those about as close as two values could get, either the same or just very, very different. A being just a very little bit different. But when I did the measuring in Art Rage, which is my my little art software, when I did it there were exactly 50% in luminance each, and then when I threw it in black and white, there's always going to be some variance a little bit between what the computers, various programs of computers see, but vicinity is close enough. But I thought this was fun. Roger, can you go back one and pull that one? Let's look at it again. This is the kind of thing will often confuse us when we're trying to do values like this, because the A is a desaturated hue and the B is fully saturated, and so the luminance of the B makes it feel much lighter than in value it really is. And so those are the kinds of things that can throw us off if we're just trying to read. But what's important in the long run is not the actual value itself, but it's what that does in a painting, of course, what the degree of color of that value does in the painting. Okay, that was y'all did good. That was a good little warm-up for our discussion about the distance of values. Values have distance, visual distance, and I think the visual part of painting is the most ignored, really. We depend so much of what we do, or what is being done in the teaching of painting, is more informational than it is training your eyes to see. Now, there are some degrees of our eyes' ability to see and translate what we're seeing into paint that is very innate, to, especially to someone who is interested in painting or someone who is doing painting. But to actually intentionally train our eyes to see, I think is more neglected, and that's why I put so much emphasis on it and try to find ways to help my students see and respond to what they're seeing rather than to figure it out intellectually. So that is a thing, isn't it? So we're going to, let's see, I think, Roger, I think we can go ahead and go with the video. So I'm going to go with the video, first of all, and where I explain to you what we mean by the visual distance of values, and then we get yourself ready for questions. You all know that I prefer you not to chat during the video because I don't think you can watch a video and chat at the same time. And you've probably heard me rant about that before. But do save your questions, and then after the video, you whatever questions pop in your mind while you're watching the video, we'll get discussions on those after the video. So Roger, roll that video. Here we see 3 sets of values. What do each of these sets have in common with the other 2? The answer is they have the same visual distance between them. Let me explain that for you. To do that, let's bring up a value scale. Now, a visual distance in value is the distance between any 2 values on the value scale. And of course, the value scale represents all possible values between the darkest dark and the lightest light. So if we examine these 2, we see that this one is this value on the value scale, and this one is this value. You count between them, and you see that we have 2 values between those 2. If we go to the next set, we have this value here on the value scale and this value here. Once again, count 1, 2 values between them. And we go to our third set and we'll see the same pattern. We see this value here, this one here, and we see 2 values in between. Now that is visual distance of values. We can see it compared to the piano keyboard. Here, look how the notes on a piano keyboard have the same distance pattern as values do. Now this is important to painting because it's those visual distances and the values of colors that cause us to see everything our eyes look at. Let's delve into how that works. So that you can see this better, I'm going to let the computer analyze the visual distances we see in some of the areas of this photo. Now, I'm going to go right back here first in this area. If you squint your eyes, just squint them, and you see all of these seem to be very close in value. A tiny bit of value difference between the areas in what we'd call the negative space, so the background trees, and then on the trees themselves. Let's see what the computer says. I'll bring over the color reader. Now, just in case you're not used to my color reader, let me show you how it works. This outside band is going to read the value, and this band is going to show you the exact value that I click on. So let's bring up the little finder. So let's do this outside edge right here. You see these 2 values. So let's click on this value first. Now there's that value. Now to show you the values side by side, I'm going to go right down at the bottom and make a little splotch right here. Just to be able to show you, isolate that value so you can really see it well. Now we'll go up to this light spot right here. And do you notice that just went over a tiny bit lighter? Okay, let's put that one right here. Now, can you see how close in the value distance is there? That's about as close a visual distance as we can see in values. So that tells us that as painters, to paint a scene in fog like this, we need to keep the distance of the values very close to each other, the further things are in the distance in that fog. And we can just look at it and ask ourselves the question, which one is darker, or how much darker is it, or which one is lighter, or how much lighter is it? Answering that question will tell you the visual distance. Let's move it to another part. Let's move it right over here and look at this area. This tree is closer to us. So let's read this and see what we get. Let's read this value first. There it is right there. There it is right there. And at the bottom, here is that darkest value right there. All right, let's read the value beside it. Right here. You see that jump further over the distance here. It jumped from about right here to over here. So let's see what that comparison is. Aha! So that tells you what you need to do if you want to paint a foggy scene of anything. The things that are in the distance, if you squint, you see it very, very close visual distance. We can also say very, very close value contrast. It's the same thing. It is the visual distance that shows the degree of value contrast. And so this set of values has a further visual distance than this set of values. Now let's read one more. Bring it over to this tree that is even closer to us. I'll put this right here this time. Now let's read the darkest dark of that. Let's get it right in here. Read that darkest dark. See how much darker that is. How much further over than either of those that we've already looked at. Now let's put that value right here. Let's read the one beside it and put it right here. Look at that visual distance. Visual distance between here and here is greater, longer, further apart, however you want to say it, than the visual distance between here and here, or here and here. Here you see it very close, so we call that a very close value contrast. Here we see it not quite so close, so it's still a close value contrast, but not the closest. And we see it here as the visual distance from these two is strong or long or further apart. Doesn't matter how you say it, it's seeing it that's important. And we have here a much stronger value contrast. Let's bring over the value scale and see if we can make this a little more definitive. Let's move the scale over now and find the relationship of the other two, okay? Right here, that might be right on the nose, right there. Now, squint. All right, you see this relationship? This is a very close relationship on the scale. This is how dark it is, and the darkest dark, and then we look at that one, and it's just one value lighter. So that really is, as far as the value scale shows us, the closest value relationship. But this is even closer because this becomes in between. And we found that this is the closest value distance we have, therefore the closest value relationship or closest value contrast. Now let's find what is the strongest value contrast, or better said, the furthest distance between values. Now, I think this is the lightest light right here, and that over here we have the darkest dark. So let's see how right I am. First, let's pull up the value scale and bring over the reader. Now let's read this value. Look at it right up there. And if I pull it over here, can you see? It's very much like this value. Now, on this reader, just a little sidebar here. The way we can tell that this is the color and this is the value of that color, if we pull that color out completely, we have only value. You see, that's how we can use this tool to tell us which value it is. Ideally, we will learn to see that. We can register it with our eyes, and as we become stronger and stronger painters, that will happen. All right, now let's see about the furthest, or the darkest, we would say. Now, I said I believe it's right here, and I think I'm right. Let's see if is that the same value? No, this is just a tiny bit lighter. So this is the deepest shadow of the tree trunk here, and of course that deeper shadow on the limbs. We see it elsewhere too. And I bring this down. Yes, it is a bit darker than that. So let me check it one more time. But as you can see, it's not the darkest dark. It's not black. It's the darkest version of this color. And this color is really a dark version, red-orange. I can see it right here in the bark. We're not talking about color, though. We're talking about value. And once again, I can show you, if we bring it over here, and I throw all the color out of it, just pull it down like that, it's this value. You see, I don't know if you can detect, but I can from my screen. This one, the 10 is just a little bit darker. And of course, that's not that much, but those little nuances do make a difference between the life that we can get in our paintings. I think perhaps this is a good place to stop and let you ask your questions. Alrighty, ready for your questions now. I don't remember if I said this in the video or not, but if you want to know why being able to see visual distance and value is important, it's because it's those two things. One, those close value relationships that we see within a larger value area are the things that give the character to our subjects. For example, let me just move over just a hair here. And you can see in this area right down here, we got lots of little value variations. We have an overall value area in there, but we have lots of little value in those value variations. And being able to see the differences between those, the distance between those in value, is what will enable you to translate it and not have to guess at it. Okie doke. Deconstructing verbs. When things go further away, do they also get blurrier? Bluer. Not necessarily. If you look in this scene, it doesn't really get bluer. The colors just lose their saturation, and that's because of the fog. So there can be many things that happen in an atmosphere that will cause things to not get bluer as they go away. Now, usually, if the sky is clear and if there are no atmospheric particles in the environment that will cause the color to change, usually the blue of the sky is reflecting in the atmosphere, and influences images to become slightly bluer as they move into the distance. But you can't make it as a rule. You have to observe what's going on. And if you're painting that, of course, if you're painting the scene and you want it to be more or less realistic of what you're doing, that's what you want to observe. You want to observe what you're actually seeing and not try to make it fit into some rule. So that trips up a lot of people, because a lot of people read it in books or see it as declared, what we could say, absolute declaration. As things go in the distance, they get bluer. Well, not always. So just look for what's happening as things move in the distance. Iris asks, can you please connect this to luminosity? Now, the only way I can connect it to luminosity is that the values that are closer to each other but colors different, it's where we're going to see more luminosity. And it happens because of the way our eyes behave to what colors do to each other. So if, for example, if we're in more luminosity is really more visible, more evident in the middle to light value areas, right in there. If those values are very similar, say values of two colors are very similar or the same, and they're juxtaposed, they're touching each other in some way, one overlapping the other, or simply touching, they will cause each other to do that little vibration in our eyes. For example, if it's a low saturation against a higher saturation, or cool against a warm, those are the two that give us that strongest little vibration in our eyes. And the closer in value they are, the stronger the little visible vibration, because our eyes starts reading what the color's doing in there more so than it's reading value, So that's about the only way I can think of at the moment that the visual distance of values would affect luminosity. I hope that answers the question. And Liliana, being distance between them a matter of relativity, what would be the right approach to having the painting as a whole read them more precise? I'm not saying now. I'm going to try to understand what you're asking there. It is all a matter of relative, how relative, and by relative we mean what do they do to each other. The relative, this one and these two values, as I pointed out, the values are a further distance from each other. That makes them stronger. It makes that area stronger visually. In other words, our eyes want to go there because it makes it a stronger value contrast. And the stronger the value contrast, the more our eyes will go there. As far as the overall scene or an overall painting, depending on what the scene is and what it's interpreting, we need a balance of that, or in some way we need those values related so that either there's more light than dark or more dark than light, and that those areas within the dark and the light relate to that. In other words, areas in light, and I'll just scoot right over here, I've got a perfect example of this right in here, this area in light. Those values are closer to each other because of the fog. They're closer to each other. They have they're closer in distance. Therefore, they have a closer value relationship. So our eyes blend them more together as our eyes move across that whole area. But then right here, our eyes will stop. So we don't realize if our eyes are moving more rapidly across this area because the value distances are closer than they are between this area and this area. So our eyes will stop here. Or if you close your eyes and open your eyes, your eye registers right in here first before it surveys the rest of the painting. And I don't know if that was what you were asking, Liliana, but that's how I interpreted what you were asking. And if I didn't understand it, rephrase it and ask it again. Let's see now. Wait a minute. Did I miss a question? Two
Cheryl.
values of pi. Oh, is this Cheryl? Okay.
Yeah. Oh.
No, Mary Ellen.
Yeah.
In the first example where each of the two value swatches were two values apart, the middle part looked to me as though the values were more than two values apart. Why is that?
The middle pair.
The pair, the pairs that I was doing in the video, it has to do with where they're located in the value scale. In the value scale, the middle values with the light values seem, there we go, wonderful. In the value scale, the middle values right in here, if they say that that's about value 3 there, 1, 2 with value 5. Those two we perceive as being closer together than if we go with value 3, or let's say value 4 to value 6. It has to do the way we perceive light and shadow, what's in light and what's in shadow. If that relationship is on one side of the value scale, that which is made of values that normally would fall in the area that is being hit by sunlight or some light source, then that relationship of two values between might seem a little closer than if one of those was in the light side of the value wheel and the other is in the shadow side of the value wheel. Value scale. Did I say value wheel? Value scale. And that it's a perceptual thing. But the important thing is not so much that we can name those, but that we can recognize the difference between those values. And usually where people have trouble recognizing the differences is right in there, right in here. When we're doing our classes, and you know, those of you who've taken the classes and the courses and the workshops know, I like the value line palette. I find it just a very clear and organized way of working. What I notice is it's in that middle value area where students have the hardest time getting those values related to each other, or the values along the middle value area of that value line palette often will be out of sync with each other. People don't have any trouble, usually they don't have trouble lining up the dark value line or the light value line in the value line palette, but it's in that middle value line where I see the discrepancies. And I will use, these days, especially recently, I've been just taking a screenshot of your palette and sending it back to you and say, this needs attention right here. So I want you to learn how to see that stuff, and not only learn how to see it, but how to mix it. If you can't mix it, if you can't see it, you can't mix it. It's going to be a hit and miss. Or if you can't mix it, it's because you're not seeing it. So it works both ways, I guess. Anyway, it's a perceptual thing, Mary Ellen, more than anything else. So that's my best explanation at the moment. If I think of something else, I'll pop it out at you. Cheryl asked, does the character of edges between two objects affect our perception of value? Yes, it does. It affects our perception of how fast our eyes move from one value to another. If those edges are sharp, our eyes don't move across those two value areas as fast. They separate, the value areas separate. But if the edges are soft, our eyes move a little faster across those areas. And if the edges are very soft, our eyes move even faster, or I should say more smoothly. So that's the reason why in our painting, that we pay attention to our edges. Because if all in realistic painting, that is, now abstract painting is different. Abstract painting is a different sort of interpretation. But with realistic painting, where we're working with images, those edges are going to help with that interpretation, are going to mean a lot, I should say, to the interpretation of the image. If they're all too sharp, it's going to look like the image is cut out, or it will look like the image is cut out and pasted on top of the rest of the environment it's in. So remember, it was Leonardo discovered that back in the early days, before artists had become visually aware of these things, especially of the way the environment affects, or before they had the technical skills, a lot of the paintings you'll see that were done in the up until about the Renaissance time will look all the edges will be the same degree of sharpness. Leonardo was the one that discovered first, well, he's given credit for discovering first, that those edges need to be softened a little bit in order for us to feel that image in space. And he called that sfumato. Y'all know that. I'm sure you all know it by now. But it does affect our perception. If it's soft, our eyes flow smoothly, more smoothly through it. If it's sharp, if the edge is sharp, our eyes sort of stop at one image before it moves to the other. So maybe that answers. Stella asks, when painting, we consider the overall exposure of the photo. In that case, the environment, the negative space value of the lightest lights will not be identified as the value 2 in the photo value. Well, I think it's more important that we learn to see without the photos to begin with. More important that we train our eyes to see in the environment itself, to train our eyes to see how images appear in light and in shadow within the environment. That we depend an awful lot on photos, and of course when I'm teaching I have to depend upon photos because you're there and I'm here and we are not looking at the same thing in 3 dimension in reality. What we have to remember about photos is cameras, when there's a direct light, when there's direct sunlight outside, cameras will overexpose shadow areas. We have to take that in consideration. If we're, especially the light's really, really bright, if the camera has overexposed a shadow area, well then we need to take consideration that there are variations within that shadow area, the value distances that vary within that shadow area, overall shadow area, that we need to learn how to see. And so we always need to compensate for what the photo is showing. That's the reason I really object to printouts, working from printouts, because printouts are flat. They don't show you the feeling of 3 dimension that a screen will show you. And so that's a lot of times also if you've got a poor printer, it will not give you those value differences, those distances between value areas that you see in 3 dimension or that you see even on the screen. And I think it would just be so advisable to all of you, if you're accustomed to printing out a photo and then working from that, try to train yourselves to work from a monitor or screen, because it's that light that's coming through the screen is going to show that more accurate, and especially in those darker value areas. Like right in here, we've got some very, very close value distances between these in this area of shadow on that tree that show the character of the bark on that tree, and the photo printed out would probably show that very averaged out. And so I think I deviated from what you're really asking there, Stella. But wait a minute, where I lost her question. What was it? Maybe I did. Okay, as identified, the negative space value of the lightest light will not be identified as the value 2 in the photo. We don't worry about that. We look for the relationship, and so what I was looking for in this photo was what it showed me. I was just looking for what it showed me, and I think that's the best practice. Not try to make it into something that is theory or something that you know, but to read what it shows you and then find a way to mix the colors and the values that will interpret that. That's why I would best answer that part, if I understood the question correctly. Then Mary Ellen says, in your answer to the question about luminosity to the hues need to be complementary, do the hues need to be complementary? Could you give an explanation again? I think I missed something. The hues don't have to be complementary, Mary Ellen. The hues, the complementary colors will give luminosity, beautiful luminosity, especially if they are more desaturated, and especially in the more middle to light value areas. But the other thing that can help give luminosity is not just complementary colors, but also just warm against cool. Any degree of warm against cool at that same value level or a very close value level where there's not more than about a degree of distance between or interval, single interval. Sometimes it can be two intervals. It just depends on the relationship of the whole thing. Or it also can be. I have seen where there's just a variation in the saturation. Variation in saturation, a lower saturation against a higher saturation, the same value level will give that luminosity. Two complements closely in close value, the close value relationship, especially in that middle value, will give you luminosity. Or just warm against cool, or all three, or combinations of those. That will give you just practicing that, playing with that idea can help you see it better than just hearing an explanation of it. Okay, let me see now. And then Mary Ellen asks, your answer to my question about pairs or swatches was fascinating. Thanks. You're welcome. Stella, in landscape painting, the verticals going up will take on the atmosphere, meaning going lighter at the top, the contrast being left Carlson's theory. Well, I still say, it doesn't matter what Carlson says, go with what your eyes observe, because yes, things that top out in the landscape, everything else being equivalent, are going to receive more light. But I respect Carlson, and I know he has lots of theory, but there are many times when his theory didn't match what my eyes were seeing. So I don't mean to badmouth him. I mean, I know he's highly respected, and as I said before, I respected his work for what it is, a way to guide you to how to see. But don't try to stick to his theory. Don't try to stick to anybody's theory. Go with your eyes. Learn what you're looking for, and then allow your eyes to tell you what you see. Because if you're just trying to make what you see into somebody else's theory, that's not giving you the creative freedom that will allow you to really see what images all around us provide for us to see. Let's see, Roger, I keep getting ads. Mary Ellen says.
More than usual.
More than usual, and I keep missing some of what Diane said. We can't do anything about those ads, Mary Ellen. I'm so sorry. There's no other setting you can hit, is there, Roger?
No, I have it set at the minimum, which is the least they'll let me do. And I mean, unless she wants to subscribe to YouTube.
Yeah, that's what I feel.
Free.
Yeah,
that costs.
There is that. Mary Ellen and Luke. It's YouTube that's doing that. It's not us. And Roger has it set for a minimum of ads. But YouTube is so greedy these days. You can subscribe for ad-free. And what is it, about $10 a month, something like that?
I don't remember. I hadn't looked into it in a long time.
Well, I finally did it because it was doing things to my blood pressure that wasn't worth it to my health. So I finally gave in to it, and it sure has made a difference in my life. But I'm sorry, I know that happens, and it just really, I'm not going to tell you what it does to me. It does something. It me off, if you know what I mean. But especially when I know that I'm making an explanation and this daggum ad breaks in, and then you miss what I'm saying. So I'm sorry. If you miss something, just ask me again. Tell me an ad gobbled up what I was saying, and I will try to see if I can remember what I said to say it again. Finally got a paid prescription to YouTube to get rid of the ads. They wear you down. Cheryl did the same thing as I did. Yeah, they did. They got me too, Cheryl, but it was doing something to my blood pressure that I wasn't able to control, and so I decided that it would just be another kind of medication not to have to take. And I pay for the ads. All right, now, Roger, there's a Ellen, very helpful answer to the question about the one pair looking further apart by Mary Ellen. Can put that into good use. Okay, wonderful. I bet you can't wait to get started with that. Your blood pressure come in, made me laugh. Yeah. Well, sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. But I could feel myself when I'm watching these. I like to watch these discussions on YouTube and things like that, and it's some really good programming. But when those ads, especially I'm listening to someone, they're saying something really interesting, and all of a sudden this ad breaks in, and I can just feel the rush. I'm just under this. So I know what you're feeling. I know what you're experiencing.
What gets me is when they break it in the middle of a word.
Oh, Lord, yeah, that too. Did y'all hear what Roger said? When they break it in the middle of the word. All right, let's get back to this now. It's worth a subscription because you also get YouTube music. That's a good one. And then, let's see, I love your reminders not to get stuck with rules. Okay, Ellen says, I love your reminders not to get stuck with the rules, theories, opinions, etc. It's easy to get caught up in that, especially with less experience. I know it is, but I want people to teach you how to see, and because that's where you find your freedom. If you make your painting depend upon all these rules, and you just got to remember the rule, there's where the stress comes in. There's no joy in that, but there's joy in seeing, because it's through the seeing that you make discoveries. You may see something I haven't seen yet, and that's unique to you. And I just think there's no other way to really have the joyful experience of painting and the freedom of spirit, freedom in painting that can allow you to grow as an artist. And I can get going more and more on that, but I won't do that right now unless something else comes up. All right, let's see. Stella, we've been talking about value contrast. May I ask about gradation of value in the negative space behind the trees? All right, the negative space, she's talking about the space between the trees, so she says negative space. There is not much gradation back there except where we see, well, this is not really either. If you squint, you'll see that fog has pretty much averaged out the value all the way across. There might be a slight variation. It might be going very slightly from maybe a little bit darker, maybe it's a little bit denser in this area. I mean, the forest may be a little bit denser in that area. And so I think that may be just a little bit darker, maybe about as close as that first close value contrast I showed you, where there's just barely any difference in value in the distance. But I don't really think in that area, I don't really see that stays overall pretty much the same value. We see some little tiny variations in the midst of it. You see right in there, that's a little value difference, the little closest distance possible, about right in here, and then especially right over in here, especially over in there we see it, but I don't see the gradation there. It may appear like, let me get over here and show you. This may appear like a gradation right in here. If you squint, this may seem a little bit darker, and it does seem a little bit darker because it's got this light beside it that's emphasizing the dark in our eyes, right in there. But I don't see it beyond that. Let's see. What did she have a second part of that question?
Yeah, second part, yeah.
Where? Oh, you got it. Did that come first, and then the value contrast? What?
That's talking about the A contrast.
Okay, negative value areas and negative values behind the trees. Does that come first, then the value contrast? They come together. Or you mean if we were doing a painting of it? I don't know that it would matter in that case because everything is so close in value. Probably technique-wise, probably it would make it seem further like it would flow behind it if we're working in oil or acrylic or pastel. It might work better to create that area of value we see in there as a block-in, and then work these slight value contrast, these slight value distances here between it in the midst of all that. I would have to experiment with that particular area. I would do a practice. I use that. I just still do that. If I'm unsure about technically how to approach something, I'll practice it somewhere and say, okay, which way would work better, this way or that way? My goodness, why not? You can do it. It's available. Cheryl, could you please discuss the gradation of values to guide the eye? Ah, yeah, that's a good one. It's a really funny thing that our eyes do. They seem to follow a gradation. And that it has to do with the visual movement. Let's look at that the value scale right here. It has to do with the visual movement of the darkest or dark going into light gradually, or light going into dark gradually. We can't really see all that at once as we think we can. Our eyes will follow that. And if we do, it just works that way. The eye will follow something that is changing, and that is visually changing. And so, and that's the reason I do this in my paintings, and I notice that other painters do this too, that we will try to make the edges and the bottom of our painting maybe slightly dark, very slightly darker, and let it gradate into whatever values are in the center of the painting, not make it obvious, but to pull the eye in into the painting itself. But we do that, and that's the way the light shines on a rounded surface. We have a gradation there. Our eyes will follow that, see, because the way the eye follows it makes us interpret that more as form. It's because of that gradual change. Our eyes will follow a gradual change. And that's probably about as good as I can do on that right now, Cheryl. If I think of something else, I will add it later. Okay, where did we get to? Oh yeah. Cheryl. Never mind. I did it anyway. All right, Liliana. In daylight, summer, sunshine, is there a standard distance of values for the block light in the shadow? Say a wall in the morning light, midday. I know it's always a matter of observation. It's certain. No, there is no standard. If you create a standard, you'll do it that way every time. You might not interpret what you're seeing. Depends on lots of things. It depends on. It could be bright. How bright the sunlight is. It depends on where the light is located. It depends on where you're located. It really does depend upon where you're located. There may be other things around that are causing the light. For example, it might be a reflection from a window across, reflecting onto a surface. You observe. That's the reason I stress reading the distances, the value distances, reading them as two together, not just a single value, as two together. Always read value as according to what it's next to. Not just you're trying to get this value, but you're trying to get this value next to this value, because they're always there. You're not going to ever find a value by itself. I'm going to be careful how I say this. You're going to say, well, if you look straight at the sky, no, you got gradations up in the sky. So it's always a comparison, seeing what value is registering, how close two values are to each other. It's always a comparison, and it always depends upon what what you're looking at. So you can't set standards. You start setting standards for something like that, and that's what you'll do every time. All your paintings look just alike. People will say, well, she just does the same painting over and over again, just with different images. I know some people like that, but I'm not calling names. And it's nobody on this chat group so far. Oh, Diane, I'm about to get ugly. I'm going to stop that. What?
T. Joe Jones is high.
Where?
Right here, T. Joe Jones.
Oh, hi. T. Joe Jones. Hi with many highs and smiles and so on. All right, let's see. I know there are other aspects to consider, though. I know that. But how far apart, direct light on the road, shadow of the same road coming from a wall right next to it. Learn to observe it. Learn to observe it, because they influence each other, and the degree of value of one, according to whether it's in light, how much it's in shadow, the degree of value in one is going to influence the degree of value of the other. You've seen it. I showed you. You've seen these. I've shown you these in videos before, where I can take the same value of something, I put a different value of, and I put it I put it around or within the vicinity of another value. I can change the other value that's surrounding it, and that value will change too. It appears to change. It's perception. Observation is always, always, always what you aim for. If you're trying to learn it by anything else, then, well, don't. Learn it by observation. I think what I'm trying to teach you is what to observe. What to observe. And I'm not trying, I will never make rules for it, but I always try to teach you what to observe, what to look for. That's what I mean by distance in values. I'm teaching you how to observe how close a value is to another value, or how far apart it is in its visual distance. And this is the little chart we have here that guides us into that visual distance. The furthest visual distance, the only thing that's absolute about that is lightest light against darkest dark. If you can't see, it's one or the other, either lightest light or darkest dark. Beyond that, everything within that range has the distance. As one value on one value changes and gets closer to the other value, the distance decreases. As it gets even closer to the other value, the distance decreases again, until the point when they are side by side, that distance is very close. They're close. They're kissing now. The values are kissing when they're that close. And so that just knowing, always asking questions instead of making assumptions. Always ask questions instead of making assumptions. And so, all right, I'm not going to go beyond that, because that's my gospel. Let's see, what else have we got there? Reading one next to the other. What is my first question about? My first question is about how different are they? First, are they the same? Well, they couldn't be the same if I'm seeing them different. Then how different are they? And you can use this chart right here as a comparison. Are they almost alike? You know, like twins. There we have identical twins that you can hardly tell apart. Then we have twins that are not quite identical. They're almost alike. Values are that way too. So if they're almost the same, it's just like musical notes. You know, on a piano you'll have musical notes that are differentiated one from another, but on a violin you don't. On a violin you can scoot from one note to the other in a gradation. But if you train your eyes to compare, and the question you ask is, how much darker is this than this one? How much visual distance is there between them? And by doing that over and over again, and by actually interpreting that, translating that onto in paint or with a pencil over and over again, you see it automatically. The more you do it, the easier it is to see, and the time will come when you will just automatically see it. You automatically know it. And you don't have to, you will always be asking the question, because you'll always be comparing. But the question is, how much, how distant is this value from this value? How distant is, where am I? How distant is this value from this value? This value. Y'all, I have to do this backwards, so I can't, it's kind of hard for me to maneuver. All right, let's see, reading one next to the other. Was my first question. How compare one to the other cannot be like telephone game. That's when I asked at the beginning about the approach to have. Okay, did we get that straightened out? I hope so. All right. Oh my goodness, we're going over time. Thank you so much, Dianne and Roger. Excellent live stream. Cheryl knows it's time to sign off. That's it, folks. Got to sign off. Thank you all for joining us. Kept me talking pretty much through the whole thing without having to come up with some little rabbits out of my rabbit head. Go forth and read your values according to how distant one is from the other. We'll see you next month, I hope. So bye-bye for now.
And wait till YouTube gets done with the rendering and they can watch it again for anything they may have missed.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Roger put a little addendum in here for you. If you wait for YouTube to render this, how long does it take?
It varies.
Half an hour, let's say.
Yeah.
All right, within a half an hour, this video will be on our YouTube channel under the live section, and you can watch it as many times as you want to, and bedamn those ads. Okay, I'm gone.